Hi, welcome back to my channel, The Coin Studio. In this series, we count down the top 25 most valuable Australian 1 shilling coins, starting right now with numbers 25 to 1. So whether you're a seasoned numismatist, a history buff, or a curious beginner, this is a journey you won't want to miss. First up, 1954 shilling, Queen Elizabeth II's first year. At number 25 on our list is the 1954 Australian shilling, marking a historic turning point in British and Australian history. Why? Because this is the first shilling to feature the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, who had just ascended the throne following the death of her father, King George VI, in 1952. Struck in sterling silver, 50% silver to be exact, this coin represents not only a numismatic change, but also a deep cultural shift. For collectors, it holds symbolic value as the beginning of a new era, the Second Elizabethan Age. Monarchists in particular treasure this coin, not just for its metal content, but for the representation of a young queen who would go on to become the longest-reigning monarch in British history. In circulated condition, these coins fetch around $200 to $300, but higher-grade examples, especially uncirculated or proof strikes, can reach $5,000 or more. And while it may not be the rarest coin on our list, its historical weight gives it enduring appeal in the collecting world. Next up, 1963 shilling, last year of the Ram. Coming in at number 24 is the 1963 shilling, the last coin ever issued with the legendary Merino Ram design. Designed by George Kruger Gray, this reverse had become one of the most loved and uniquely Australian images in Commonwealth coinage. By the early 1960s, the buzz of decimalization was already building. In just 3 years, Australia would abandon the pound system and adopt the dollar and cent. So this 1963 issue stands as the final chapter in the predecimal story of the Australian shilling. Collectors cherish it for its role in this transition, and while it's more common in lower grades, uncirculated examples are quite desirable, fetching up to $6,000 depending on condition. It's a coin that blends nostalgia, design brilliance, and historical relevance, a must-have for those completing a full run of Australian shillings. Next up, 1955 Perth Mint Shilling. At number 23 is a lesser-known gem, the 1955 Perth Mint Shilling. While Sydney and Melbourne were the primary mints for most of Australia's history, the Perth Mint played a key role, especially during the mid-20th century. What sets this coin apart is its scarcity. The 1955 shilling had a relatively low mintage, especially compared to earlier wartime issues, and unlike many other coins of the era, a significant portion of the 1955 run was heavily circulated, meaning that pristine examples are much harder to find today. Collectors hunting for a complete set of mint-marked shillings often struggle to locate this coin in mint state, which has driven its value up in recent years. A nice example can command $6,000 to $12,000, especially if the strike is strong and the surfaces are clean. It's an under-the-radar coin that rewards knowledgeable collectors, and a shining example of why mint marks matter. Next up, 1926 shilling, a George V classic. Sliding into position 22 is the 1926 Australian shilling, a coin from the golden age of King George V's reign. This was a time of interwar economic instability, just before the Great Depression would sweep across the world. That instability is partly what makes this coin hard to find today in exceptional condition. Though the mintage of 1926 was healthy by raw numbers, survival rates in mint state are very low. That's because silver coins of the era were heavily used in everyday commerce. Most 1926 shillings are scratched, worn, or darkly toned from years of pocket use. That makes high-grade versions a real prize. Prices for average examples hover around $10,000, but premium uncirculated coins can hit $15,000 or more. It's a dignified coin from a king who symbolized the British Empire's might in the post-war world, and for that, it earns its rightful place among the most valuable shillings. Next up, 1946 shilling, the silver cutoff. At number 21, we find the 1946 shilling, a pivotal coin for one specific reason. It marks the beginning of the end for silver in Australian coinage. Prior to 1946, Australian shillings were struck with a 92.5% silver alloy, sterling silver. But post-WWII, economic conditions forced a change. The 1946 shilling was the first to be struck with a reduced silver content of 50%. It was a cost-cutting measure driven by inflation, silver shortages, and the broader need to rebuild national economies. Interestingly, many people of the era didn't realize the metal content had changed. As a result, these coins weren't hoarded like earlier silver shillings. That makes them scarcer in high grades today. Collectors prize this issue for its historical importance. It represents both a turning point in Australian coinage and the broader impact of global conflict. In top condition, these coins can reach $20,000, and they continue to rise in value as silver and historical demand increase. Next up, 1934 shilling, Depression-era survivor. At number 20 on our list is the 1934 Australian shilling, a coin that echoes the hardship of the Great Depression. By 1934, Australia was deep into economic despair. Jobs were scarce, people were struggling, and coins were circulated heavily, worn into oblivion in many cases. What makes this coin valuable isn't just its age. It's the fact that so few high-grade examples survived the brutal economy of the 1930s. Most 1934 shillings were used until they were nearly smooth. Another challenge, the strike quality. Many examples from this year are poorly struck, especially on the reverse, where details of the merino, ram, and legend often fade. That makes finding a well-struck, lustrous example an uphill battle, and a rewarding one for collectors. Expect to pay around $15,000 for a solid circulated piece, but if you're lucky enough to find a mint-state gem, you could be looking at $25,000 or more. It's a coin that's often overlooked, but for numismatists who love a challenge, the 1934 shilling is a rewarding find. Next up, 1916 M shilling, Melbourne's first. Number 19 takes us to a true minting milestone, the 1916 M shilling, the first shilling ever struck at the Melbourne Mint. Before this, Australia's shillings were all minted in London or Birmingham. But in 1916, amid World War I, production shifted locally to Australia. Why is this coin special? It marks the birth of Australian minted shillings, a major step in the nation's growing independence and industrial capability. Them mintmark is your clue, and collectors love it. World War I also meant metal shortages and disruptions. That makes the 1916 M issue not just historically important, but also scarcer than later Melbourne shillings. Prices for this coin range from $25,000 in circulated condition up to $27,000 or more in uncirculated grades. For collectors who specialize in mintmarks, first issues or WWI-era numismatics, this coin is a cornerstone. Next up, 1952 shilling, the end of an era. At number 18 is a coin with royal significance, the 1952 Australian shilling, issued in the final year of King George VI's reign. This coin stands at a unique transition point in the monarchy, as King George VI passed away in early 1952, and Elizabeth II ascended the throne. This wasn't just a change in portrait, it was a change in the world, the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. And that makes the 1952 shilling a coin of major historical importance. Unlike the post-war coins of the 40s, the 1952 issue was struck in lower numbers, and it wasn't hoarded. Most examples saw heavy circulation, which means high-grade pieces are now relatively rare. In top condition, this coin fetches between $30,000 and $35,000. It's especially desirable to collectors assembling complete George VI sets, or those who collect last year issues across different monarchs. It may not have the glamour of gold, but the 1952 shilling has the quiet strength of legacy. Next up, 1935 shilling, scarcity in silver. Coming in at number 17 is the 1935 Australian shilling, a coin struck during the heart of the interwar period. This coin is a classic case of low mintage plus high, where equals sign rarity today. Only a modest number were produced that year, and the vast majority entered heavy circulation. Combine that with a global economic downturn and silver coin meltings, and you've got a shilling that's surprisingly hard to find in great shape. Collectors note that 1935 shillings often show surface abrasions and flat strikes, especially on the central reverse details. Finding one with strong luster and crisp design is like striking silver. Values for circulated coins range from $20,000 upward, while uncirculated examples push $50,000 or more. It's a classic case of scarcity driving demand, and the perfect mid-30s challenge for shilling specialists. Next up, 1944 S shilling, the American connection. At number 16, we find one of the most unusual and internationally flavored coins in Australian history, the the 1944 Shilling, struck not in Sydney or Melbourne, but in San Francisco, USA. That's right, during World War II, Australia's mints couldn't meet the huge demand for coinage, especially with soldiers and population movement increasing cash usage. The solution: Australia outsourced some of its coin production to the United States Mint in San Francisco. The result was the 1944 Shilling, a coin with an unmistakable foreign origin but struck to Australian specifications. It's a fascinating wartime artifact, blending two allied nations in one piece of silver. These coins are highly sought after due to their unique backstory and the mint mark, which sets them apart from every other shilling. Expect to pay $25,000 to $60,000, depending on grade. Collectors of wartime issues, overseas mintings, and mint mark varieties all chase this coin, making it one of the most intriguing shillings on the list. Next up, 1918 Shilling, the final year of war. Coming in at number 15 is the 1918 Shilling, a coin minted during the final and most grueling year of World War I. This shilling is a tangible piece of history, born from a year marked by global conflict, the Spanish flu, and the long-awaited armistice. Collectors treasure the 1918 shilling not just for its age or silver content, but for its historic symbolism. Struck at a time when Australia was heavily involved in the Great War, this coin circulated through a nation in mourning, rebuilding, and transition. Despite being part of a large mintage, high-quality examples are harder to come by. Wartime coinage often suffered from rushed production and harsh use. Today, the 1918 shilling is valued between $30,000 and $70,000, depending on condition. Mint state examples, especially with strong reverse strikes, are increasingly sought after by collectors who specialize in military-era Australian coinage. Next up, 1942 Shilling, Melbourne Mint, low mintage. At number 14, we find a wartime sleeper, the 1942 Melbourne Mint Shilling. Now 1942 saw shillings minted in both Melbourne and San Francisco, but it's the Melbourne issue that gets collector hearts pumping, thanks to a notably low mintage. While the US struck 1942, shillings are fairly available. The Melbourne minted coins are comparatively scarce. Wartime disruptions and shifting priorities meant far fewer were made locally. The absence of a mint mark is your clue. Melbourne shillings from this year simply show the date, with no letter beneath. That tiny difference translates to big collector value. Today, this coin can command $40,000 to $80,000, with mint state examples being extremely hard to source. For collectors building full wartime sets or chasing low mintage varieties, this is a must-have. Next up, 1923 Shilling, the hidden rarity. At number 13 is an underrated classic, the 1923 Australian Shilling. While it's not as flashy as some earlier issues, the 1923 Shilling is genuinely scarce, especially in collectible grades. Many 1923 shillings entered circulation quickly and stayed there for decades. The result, most surviving examples are well worn, and finding one with strong details or mint luster is a serious challenge. Mintage figures suggest the coin wasn't especially rare at the time, but over the years, attrition has made it hard to find. This has led many collectors to label it a sleeper rarity, overlooked, but undeniably hard to acquire in top condition. Prices start at around $60,000 for decent circulated coins, and can exceed $75,000 for higher grades. If you ever find a sharply struck 1923 shilling with minimal wear, you've got yourself a hidden treasure. Next up, 1924 Shilling, the weak strike wonder. Number 12 is a coin known not just for scarcity, but for its infamous weak strike, the 1924 Shilling. At first glance, many 1924 examples look worn, but often, it's just a result of poor die pressure during minting. The 1924 Shilling is condition sensitive, meaning even a minor upgrade in quality can make a big difference in value. The coin's softness of strike often affects the king's crown and the reverse details of the ram's head. As a result, truly sharp examples, where the fine lines of the design are fully visible, are few and far between. This drives up demand and price. In circulated condition, expect values around $17,000, while exceptional specimens can top $80,000 or more. This is a coin that rewards patience and sharp eyes, and that's why it holds such an elevated place in Australian shilling collecting. Next up, 1914 Shilling, a British minted rarity. Our number 11 coin carries both history and international intrigue. It's the 1914 Shilling, struck at the Heaton Mint in Birmingham, England. That small mint mark under the date transforms this coin from ordinary to elite. Why is it so significant? First, it was produced during the first year of World War I, giving it a deep historical context. Secondly, the Heaton Mint struck fewer coins than the main Royal Mint, making the 1914 version scarcer overall. Australian coins produced overseas often have that extra layer of collectability, a link between the colonies and the empire. And this shilling is no exception. It's also a favorite among mintmark collectors, who specialize in identifying these small but vital variations. Values range from $45,000 in circulated condition to over $85,000 in mint state. It's one of those coins that instantly stands out in any serious predecimal collection, not just for its rarity, but for the global history it represents. Next up, 1925 Shilling, the mid-decade ghost. Kicking off our top 10 is the elusive 1925 Shilling. While many predecimal coins from the 1920s are tricky to locate, this year stands out for its incredibly low mintage and elusive higher-grade examples. Minted during a time of economic instability, the 1925 Shilling never saw wide-scale release, and many were heavily circulated. This coin is particularly hard to find in grades above very fine, and even moderate wear can still command four-figure prices. Its scarcity isn't just due to numbers. Many 1925 shillings were used until nearly illegible, and the few that were saved have become staples in elite collections. Today, collectors can expect to pay $70,000 or $85,000 depending on condition. A clean strike with minimal rim nicks or reverse flattening can send prices soaring at auction. If you see a 1925 shilling in extra fine or better, don't hesitate. It could be a once-in-a-decade find. Next up, 1915 Shilling, wartime rarity from England. At number 9, we head back into World War I and focus on the 1915 Shilling, struck not in Australia, but at the Heaton Mint in Birmingham, England. This coin is rich with history. At the time, Australia needed additional coinage but didn't have enough local minting capacity, so Britain stepped in. There beneath the date is a small detail, but it marks a significant chapter in Commonwealth coin production. What makes the 1915 especially difficult is that many surviving examples show heavy wear or corrosion, likely from wartime environments and inferior storage conditions during global conflict. Values today range from $100,000 to $115,000, depending on grade and eye appeal. Mint state examples are exceptionally rare and fetch premiums at global auctions. For collectors who chase mint marks or WWI issues, this coin is a prime target, a blend of rarity, condition sensitivity, and historical significance. Next up, 1921 Shilling, rare and high grade. Next up at number 8 is a coin that's deceptively common, the 1921 Shilling. But here's the catch: while many were minted, very few exist in high-grade condition. The 1921 issue is notorious among numismatists for being poorly struck, weak pressure, and worn dies meant that fine details often didn't fully appear, even when the coin was brand new. Add in decades of circulation, and the result is a year where high-quality specimens are rare birds. Collectors looking for crisp legends, full detail on the shield, and sharp portrait reliefs are often left disappointed. This makes the 1921 Shilling a challenge not in rarity by mintage, but in condition rarity, and that drives demand. Expect to pay between $120,000 and $130,000, with certified high-grade examples pushing even higher. A pristine 1921 can become the centerpiece of a George V series. Next up, 1933 Shilling, the Great Depression low mintage. Sliding in at number 7 is a true economic survivor, the 1933 Shilling. Minted in the depths of the Great Depression, with unemployment rampant and money scarce, this coin was produced in very limited numbers. Its low mintage makes it one of the toughest George V-era coins to track down, especially in superior grades. Circulating coins were heavily used, many retained well past decimalization, making unworn specimens incredibly rare. On top of that, the quality control of the era wasn't great, so the few surviving coins often show uneven strikes, weak reverse detail, and die fatigue. That only increases the appeal of well-preserved examples. In today's market, values run from $130,000 to $150,000, with prices steadily rising as top-tier specimens are locked away in long-term collections. If you want to own a coin that speaks to a moment when every cent, or shilling, mattered, the 1933 is that piece of history. Next up, 1913 shilling, the beginning of an era. Now we enter the realm of true legends, at number 6. It's the 1913 Australian shilling, a first-year issue, and an absolute cornerstone of any predecimal collection. This was the first year that Australia struck its own shillings as a unified nation. Before this, Australians relied on British currency. So the 1913 shilling isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of national identity and independence. And it's not just historically important, it's also rare. Many were struck, but surviving examples in high grades are extremely difficult to acquire. Early minting equipment led to inconsistent strikes, and the coin's long time in circulation wore many into oblivion. Collectors clamor for this piece, not just because of rarity, but because of what it represents, a coin minted by Australians. For Australians, for the very first time, expect prices from $135,000 to $160,000, with pristine coins commanding far more at top-tier auctions. The 1913 shilling is a crown jewel, historical, rare, and foundational to understanding Australian numismatics. Next up, 1910 shilling, the first Commonwealth shilling. We begin with a true piece of Australian history, the 1910 shilling, issued under King Edward VII. This wasn't just another coin. This was the first official Australian shilling ever. The year 1910 marked the birth of Australia's independent currency system under the new Commonwealth. Prior to this, British coinage dominated circulation. But with the passage of the Coinage Act of 1909, Australia began producing its own coins, and the 1910 shilling was the first silver denomination struck domestically, featuring the coat of arms of Australia and the profile of Edward VII, who would die later that year. This coin is a vital cornerstone in any serious Australian collection. While many were minted, high-grade examples are extremely rare. Most have been lost, melted, or worn down through decades of use. Today, a 1910 shilling in mint state can sell for $150,000 to over $165,000, with museum-quality pieces commanding even more. Its historical weight and aesthetic charm make it one of the most sought-after foundation coins in the nation's history. Next up, 1922 shilling, key date sleeper rarity. Sliding into the number 4 spot is a coin that many collectors underestimate until they try to find one in high grade. It's the 1922 shilling, and it's one of the toughest post-WWI dates to acquire in pristine condition. With a mintage of just over 1.5 million, this coin might not seem rare on paper, but the survival rate of well-struck, mint-state examples is astonishingly low. Most were poorly made or saw intense circulation during the interwar period. As such, this coin has become what collectors call a sleeper rarity, one that isn't always on price guides' radars, but creates serious bidding wars when top-tier examples hit the market. The 1922 shilling has crossed the $180,000 mark at auctions, with solid examples fetching anywhere from $0.4 million to $0.7 million, depending on eye appeal, luster, and surface integrity. Its unassuming look hides a scarcity that even seasoned collectors can underestimate, making it a trophy for shilling specialists. Next up, 1911 shilling proof, George V's royal introduction. Coming in at number 3 is not just a coin, it's a work of numismatic art. The 1911 proof shilling. This was the first proof shilling issued under King George V, and it was never intended for circulation. Struck to mark the beginning of a new monarch's reign, the 1911 proof shilling was minted in extremely limited quantities, likely as part of official specimen sets for dignitaries, museums, and mint records. What makes this coin stand out is the sheer beauty of the strike, sharp reliefs, mirrored fields, and an elegance that surpasses regular issues. Few examples have survived the past century. The rarity of these coins cannot be overstated, especially those certified by top grading services. Market values range from $0.5 million to $0.8 million, and when one hits the auction block in superb condition, collectors from around the globe take notice. This is more than a coin, it's a royal relic, a symbol of Australia's early numismatic artistry, and a crown jewel in any proof coin collection. Next up, 1920 shilling, collector's dream rarity. Our runner-up is a coin that has become the stuff of legends among predecimal collectors, The 1920 shilling. This is arguably one of the rarest dates in the entire series when condition is factored in. The 1920s were a volatile decade, with economic shifts and post-war adjustments. The 1920 shilling had one of the lowest production numbers, and most examples were heavily used or lost in circulation. What elevates this coin even further is the near-total absence of mint state survivors. Almost all known examples show wear, nicks, or weak definition, especially on the crown and shield. Today, if a 1920 shilling in EF or better shows up, it becomes a media event in the numismatic world. Prices range from 1.5 million to 2.5 million, depending on condition. A recent auction even saw a record-breaking bid for a certified high-grade example, nearing $3 million. To own a 1920 shilling is to hold one of Australia's most elusive silver treasures, a coin with mythic scarcity and immense historical charm. Next up, finally the number 1, 1915 proof shilling, the ultimate Australian shilling. And here it is, the ultimate, the pinnacle, the holy grail of Australian 1 shilling coins, the 1915 proof shilling. Struck in extremely limited numbers, likely under 10 examples, the 1915 proof shilling is not just rare, it's ultra-rare. This coin was never intended for general circulation, and was produced in a time of wartime uncertainty during World War I. Its surfaces are mirror-like, its design sharply defined, and every detail whispers a story of precision and privilege, likely reserved for government archives or presentation sets. Because of its minuscule population, many collectors will never even see one in person, let alone own one. These coins are almost always housed in institutional collections or with elite private collectors. When one appears at auction, which is incredibly rare, the price can soar to $3 million to $4 million, even $5 million plus, depending on condition and provenance. The 1915 proof shilling stands as a testament to the artistry, rarity, and legacy of early Australian minting. For many, it represents the peak of Commonwealth silver collecting, a coin that belongs in the pantheon of world numismatics. And there you have it, the top 25 most valuable Australian 1 shilling coins, culminating in the legendary 1915 proof. These coins reflect not only rarity and value, but the very heart of Australia's numismatic journey, from colonial beginnings to independent brilliance. Which was your favorite? Which one do you dream of owning? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and stay tuned, because our next series is diving into the most valuable predecimal Australian pennies and florins. And trust us, the stories only get richer. Thanks for watching _.